Okay, what's up, guys? Welcome back. This is part two of the Why I Carry series. And basically, in the series, I'm going sort of in more detail into the individual items that I carry and giving you guys a little bit more background for how I landed on these particular items, why not others, why not others that I've tried or others that are very popular. The first video of these, I talked about my pen, the Parker Jotter. So I wanted to detail about why I carry this pen in particular, why I carry a pen in general, and sort of dug into it still pretty briefly, but if you're interested in pens or in carrying a pen day to day, or why someone might want to do that, feel free to go check out that video. I'll link it in the description. For today, as promised in that video, I'm going to talk about why I carry this particular knife, or a pocket knife in general. So this is the Spyderco Para 3. Now I'm going to deviate a little bit from what I promised in that video, and I'm going to sort of talk about these two knives together. So the problem with talking about this one is that I only just started carrying it, and I'm carrying it because I received it as a gift, and I'm kind of giving it a fair shake to see if this might take the cake as my go-to everyday knife. But this is the one that I've carried for the longest and was carrying prior to receiving this one. As I'm moving these back and forth, you might not really even be able to tell the difference if you're not familiar with the two of them. The shapes are super similar. Honestly, that's why I'm giving this one a go, to see if this might be a better fit for me, because I know that it has a lot of the same things that I really, really like about this one in particular. So let's go through those things. So for starters, this blade length tends to be a really good fit for me, something in the 2.5 to 3 inch range. It's not super alarming to anybody at the office. It's long enough that I can cut things like food and rope and stuff like that as needed, but not too long that it scares people. And it also abides by the vast majority of state and local knife regulations and things like that. So the blade length is huge. The blade width I really like, and that's kind of an artifact of Spyderco knives because they have this opening hole, which we'll discuss. They tend to have a pretty broad blade, which makes the angle of the edge very acute, and that acute angle tends to make it easier to slice through different media than a more narrow blade. So that I really, really like. Now, as for that opening hole, the opening hole on these is really awesome. You can really get the meat of your thumb in there, you can see, and open from there. And it works with gloves on, without gloves on, wet hands, really in any conditions. There are all sorts of other little tricks that people tend to be able to do with these. You can kind of flick it open like this. You can do all sorts of stuff. I tend to prefer to just open it slowly like that. But, if you had the interest, that opening hole lets you do stuff like that as well. The other beauty of this is that it gives you this huge ramp on the rear of the blade that you can push your thumb against. And both of these knives do a really great job of cutting into the back of the steel, and they call this jimping. And it basically lets you dig your thumb into the back of the blade and get a really good purchase on it so it doesn't slip out of your hands. If you're like punching into like a bag of salt or something like that, or whatever, you won't slip up on the blade and hurt yourself. So actually both of these knives have that, really nice aggressive ramp. So that I really, really like about both of them. The textured handle is pretty huge. It's really nice to have texture on the handle for the same reason. And then the biggest piece for me is the pocket clip. Because of where I carry the knives, it's really handy to have a deep carry pocket clip. You see that it carries up to there. And by where I mean, when I sit down, if I'm carrying it on the upper lip of my pocket, this back edge tends to dig into my waist. So actually the Spyderco Delica off the shelf does not come with a clip like this. This is something that I purchased separately to lower the knife in the pocket, and it just sort of loops over, and that way it sits, way up there, and it doesn't dig into my side or my waist, when I sit down, and that's pretty huge for me. These two have different sorts of locks. Really, I'm open to all different sorts of locking mechanisms, so it's not really critical to me, anyone in particular. I want something fairly reliable. Can't open this with my left hand. So this compression lock, super well known for its strength, as is the back lock on the Delica. They're both pretty highly regarded. The one plus I would give to the Para 3 is that it has this pass-through handle, and that's a result of that compression lock, is it's got that leaf liner off to the side, and you can just see straight through the handle. So cleaning this out is super easy. So if you get dust or gunk in there, it's super easy to get it clean. Whereas this one, because of the back lock, is all sealed up. So if you get stuff inside the handle there, it's very, very hard to get out. And you just have to spend some time with like a cut off Q-tip or something like that, and you can clean it out. It's not super hard, but this one is definitely easier. So if you look at the two blades, similar profiles, but as you can see, this one is serrated. So this is the main holdup when I'm considering which of these I want to carry. I personally prefer a plain edge blade because they're a little easier for me to maintain. Though if you look at it, honestly, I have not maintained it as well as you would think by me saying that. So if I'm not going to maintain it anyway, this one retains its sharpness way longer, and Spyderco offers free resharpening, including for their serrated blades, for life, for the life of the tool. So you just pay the cost of shipping, you send it in, and they sharpen it up. And honestly, given that service, a blade like this is not really a bad choice. It cuts through certain media much better, something like rope or fibrous sorts of materials, but things like tape and envelopes, a plain edge tends to do a little bit better. Food, stuff like that, I'd probably reach for a sharp plain edge first. But they're pretty neck and neck. Again, they're very similar size and shape, and I'm still kind of undecided as to which I prefer. So beyond that, as for a knife in general, so I've mentioned a few things that I tend to find myself cutting with a knife, but generally speaking, I'm an engineer for my full-time job, and I work in product development. So we do a lot of design and a lot of fabricating of parts and things like that, and a good cutting tool is really important. We're not issued one other than an X-Acto knife. And X-Acto knives are great, but they're kind of hard to hold on to. And the blade is obviously much, much shorter. For opening packages and things like that, you really don't want to dull your X-Acto knife. That's really for fine detail work, finishing parts and stuff like that. So something like this is really good for cutting open packages that I receive, and little things like that throughout the day. It's honestly mostly cutting open packages at this point. And then at home, every once in a while I use it to cut zip ties and things like that. So it's handy to have something along these lines for those reasons. And like I said, I like the handle shape. I could probably go with a smaller blade for what I do, but the smaller the blade you get, generally, the smaller the handle tends to get. And I've medium to large size hands, and this one really hits about the minimum that I can really get in there and hold on to well. And again, that just comes down again to safety. So if my hand is slipping off the knife, I worry about cutting myself or something like that. So that's a pretty important metric for me. But anyway, yeah, that's why I carry this knife in particular right now, or these two knives generally, and also why I carry one at all. Let me know down below if you carry one, why you do, and which one it is. I'd be super interested to find out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this more in-depth look. And if you haven't seen the overview video where I talk about all of these things that I carry, I'll link it down below. It's called my Everyday Carry or my EDC. And there you can kind of get a general look at all of the items and kind of get a feel for what item might be next in this series. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks.